Here's Ben Shapiro to whine about the media making reasonable election projections.
Fox News was actually pretty early on the call of the election, suggesting that Joe Biden has won this thing. Now, technically speaking, media projections don't mean anything. Like, literally, they mean nothing.
Well, they mean as much as weather forecasts. Of course, we can't know with absolute certainty who is going to be sworn in on Inauguration Day until that day arrives. Just as we can't know with absolute certainty what the weather is going to be in any particular time and place until we are in that place at that time. But that doesn't mean that projections based on the evidence at hand are meaningless. They meaningfully convey what will probably happen.
It does not say in the Constitution of the United States that when CNN and MSNBC and Fox News all declare that somebody has been projected to win an election, that election is now over. That is not the way the legal process works.
I hear this a lot from Republicans lately. They seem to be under the impression that somebody somewhere actually believes that this is how the legal process works. This is a straw man. Nobody believes this. Nobody makes this claim.
And the person challenging the outcome of the election has every legal right, and indeed, if they suspect serious fraud, a legal duty to go ahead and investigate all of those allegations. And as I've been saying all week, as maybe the most consistent member of the media, the election is not over until all the votes are counted and all of the legal processes have played themselves out. When I said this on Tuesday, I got ripped by some people. When I said on Friday, I got ripped by precisely the opposite people. But here is the reality. That is always the case. It is always the case that the election is not over until it's over. And right now, it is still not over because there are legal processes in place. The Trump campaign is going to have to show voter fraud, enough voter fraud that it would call into consideration the outcome of the election. So it's not just enough to allege that there is one voter fraud case in Philadelphia in order to invalidate the entire Pennsylvania election where President Trump is trailing by something on the order of 35 to 40,000 votes.
This video was uploaded on November 9th. As of now, Trump is trailing by over 80,000 votes in Pennsylvania.
It is not enough for President Trump to claim that there is some sort of miasmatic, gigantic voter fraud that is happening across the country without providing proof of the extent of that fraud. He's going to have to prove it in court. And if he does, the outcome of the election changes. And if he doesn't, it doesn't. Right? That is all that is happening here. But the notion that the media get to call this thing and then everybody goes home.
You mean the notion that literally nobody believes?
And you are bad if you refuse to say that it's over?
Well, I think you're blowing smoke up my ass if you refuse to say that it's virtually over. Even back on the 9th, the odds that Trump was going to be able to find and discount several tens of thousands of illegitimate votes was pretty infinitesimal. And even if Trump somehow manages to turn things in his favor in the courts, it still would have been entirely justified to conclude that he probably wouldn't get a second term based on the information available at the time.
Right, you've done something deeply wrong if you refuse to say that it's over. I'm not going to hear that crap from the same media who suggested for 4 long years that Hillary Clinton was the legit president of the United States, for 2 long years that Stacey Abrams is the legit governor of Georgia. That is not the way any of this works.
You're going to have to be more specific than the same media, because it's clearly not the case that everyone now saying that Biden is virtually guaranteed to be inaugurated was also saying that Hillary Clinton was the legitimate president for the last 4 years, or that Stacey Abrams is the legitimate governor of Georgia. I don't believe that Clinton was the legitimate president or that Abrams is the legitimate governor, given the election rules that are in place.
I'm amazed to watch the members of our esteemed media suggest that if you are a senator like Ted Cruz, and if you refuse to say that Joe Biden is the president-elect of the United States at this point, that is because you are bad.
That's a pretty nebulous accusation. I wouldn't say that it's because he's bad. More specifically, I would say that he refuses to acknowledge the writing on the wall because he wants to ingratiate himself with Trump's fans. That's mendacious and Machiavellian, and the consequences have been that organizing national security and vaccine distribution have been made more difficult.
Chris Wallace suggested over the weekend that Ted Cruz, for not saying President-elect Biden, was like a Japanese soldier holding out after World War II. No, not exactly. There's an entire legal process. The inauguration doesn't happen until January 20th. The final certification of the electors does not happen until December. So guess what? Actually, nobody has a responsibility to call Biden president-elect because technically speaking, fact check here, guys, he's not president-elect yet.
It's almost never the case that the title of president-elect is withheld until after the Electoral College meets in December. How many people in November of 2016 said of Trump that he's not technically president-elect yet? I don't recall anybody saying that, certainly not Republicans.
Not quite so fast, guys. Number 1, still got a legal process to get through. Number 2, as we're going to find out, it turns out that your entire media narrative, which is that Donald Trump is the root of all evil, and that as soon as Donald Trump is out of office, Joe Biden has fulfilled his mandate. The skies will part. Rays of sunshine will shine down on the...
who, specifically in the media, has been telling this media narrative. This is a caricature. There are plenty of polls which say that people are voting more against Trump than for Biden. You know who told me about those polls? The media. That's a weird thing for them to report if they want to portray the Biden administration as ushering in a coming utopia.
Get ready, gang. And not quite so fast. The fight is only beginning. It is only beginning. And I know that we're all supposed to be just gleeful that President Trump is out. But here's the thing. Joe Biden, even if he's elected, going to be a crappy president. Also, Joe Biden going to be saddled, in all likelihood, with the Republican Senate.
The Senate vote still has a runoff election to complete. If the projections that Joe Biden is going to be president, which were made after all of the votes were cast, and a sizable chunk of them were counted, are meaningless, then Ben's assessment of which party will likely control the Senate, which he made before all of the votes were even cast, let alone counted, is even more meaningless. To everyone who helps me out on Patreon, you're a big help. Thanks so much.